All right, everybody, welcome back. This is part 2 on our ultimate guide here. This one is going to be the ultimate guide, basically the best tips that I could think of for sellers. The last video was for buyers, as in you're trying to buy something on Morph Market. So if you haven't seen that video, check that out. It posted a couple days or a week before this one will post. This one is going to be for the seller's side of it. I've done a lot. I'd almost say maybe 50-50 buying and selling on Morph Market. Though I've definitely spent more time selling, more effort, more brain power selling. So I think I am probably, hopefully, giving even better information for the seller's side of it. So it's going to incorporate all the little tips and things I've learned through my course of selling. Again, I think I started the last video like this, but if you don't know who I am or what my qualifications are to be giving this information, I have been breeding ball pythons since 2019. I have my store on Morph Market is one of the most highly rated stores, one of less than 50 that have over 250 ratings. I am a smaller group of those stores have 1,000 or more followers, one of which I am. I have well over $500,000 in sales on Morph Market only, and I have only sold my snakes on Morph Market. I have done 0 sales outside of a Morph Market store. So I have spent all of my time and energy into actually using that platform to sell ball pythons. So that's where I come from. So the first tip, I guess the easiest thing to do is to start right from the beginning, and that's creating a brand. You have to have a brand. That goes from making a brand that has a good name, that has good color combinations. Even coming up with a few mottos might help. You'll have to excuse me here as I'm bobbing and weaving. We've had rain for 2 days straight. I'm trying to get out for a walk, and there's, as you can see behind me, tons of puddles and water. So I'm trying to not get soaking wet. And if you watched me for a long time, I'd started off as Blind Strike Exotics. A lot of people didn't know why I named it that. They just thought the name was cool. I actually picked that name because, so I'm using a little more thought, because when a snake strikes, you can't see it coming. So blind, you can't see it coming, strike. So that's why I first chose that name. And then I had somebody create the logo and kind of the colors. I wanted kind of like a very simple, like superhero-esque logo, something that was very simple, but still got the point across, and that's what I had. And then as more people came into the hobby, everybody was exotics, snakes, balls, like they all use the same name. And probably 3 or 4 years into it, I decided that I wanted to pick something a little simpler. There's an easier handle, easier name on platforms, something that was just simpler to kind of, and I wanted to change the colors too. So I changed the colors, and that's when I picked out Snake Limited. To me, that just seems like a more professional company. I knew I wasn't going to be doing anything other than breeding snakes, ball pythons, so I didn't need to say exotics or, reptiles, or it's just snakes. So that's when I decided to change the name in that, and that's why I went with the black and the yellow colors. So when you're picking out a name, don't make it overly complicated. Don't make it a mouthful. But you also don't want to pick something that everybody else is doing. You want it to be a little bit different. It doesn't need to be crazy, but you want it to be a little different. You want it to stand out. Use AI. Like, please use AI. Put something to say, look, I need a business for my ball python breeding company. I want the name of my company to be short and sweet. I want it to say something like this, and just keep talking to the AI, keep talking to Gemini, ChatGPT until you whittle it down to something smart. You don't need to do it by yourself, and you don't need a marketing team to do it either. You do not need to pay somebody to figure it out for you. The AI bots are way too advanced at this point to warrant you having to pay somebody to help you figure this out. So that's step one. Step two is to get that name, Snake Limited, for example, on all of the different social media platforms. You want to get Snake Limited on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok if you want to do that, Facebook, wherever else, the Morph Market, wherever else you need to get those handles, you need to pick that up. So when I knew I was going to make Snake Limited and make that change, I went out and got those handles before I ever announced the name, because you never know when somebody's going to try to snipe the name from you and try to extort you and make you pay for it. So you go out and get all those handles. So that was the second part of it. If you don't want to buy a domain, snakelimited.com, you can always just use snakelimited@gmail.com. It definitely looks a lot more professional to buy the domain and send an email to John at snakelimited.com versus sending an email to snakelimited@gmail.com. Definitely looks more professional, but you don't have to. Website, I never used it. I got one, I set it up, but I never ended up using it. I just pushed everybody to go to my Morph Market store. Okay, all that's out of the way. This is going to be about selling, maybe building your brand more than projects, what projects you should get into. So I'm not really going to focus on which projects to buy into. That could be a whole nother video, to be honest. But in terms of setting up your Morph Market store, I think the biggest thing that you need to do first is develop a store policy. The way I did it is I looked at Canovas and I looked at Aussies, maybe a few others. I saw what their rules, what their policies were, and I adapted it, copied, pasted, put it in a Word, and then adapted it as to what I wanted it to say for my preferences. So if you want to, go onto my store policy, copy it, paste it, and change it as you see fit to better fit you. But you need to have that in place, because if not, it will default to whatever Morph Market uses as the default policy, and you might not agree with that. So this overrides what their default Morph Market policy is. You need to define everything from shipping and live arrival guarantees and everything and anything else in between, so that there's no gray areas with your buyers. Because this is maybe something we'll get into a little later in the video, there are definitely bad buyers, and there are definitely people you don't want to sell to, and they will use every trick in the book if something doesn't go their way to try to screw you over. So you need to have all these things written out. If they choose to not read them, that's their own damn fault. It's not yours. They can't claim negligence. Oh, I didn't read any of it. Well, that's your fault, buyer. That's not my fault. I laid it out for you. If you chose not to read it, that's your problem, not mine. So lay out your store policy. Personally, I've always chosen to ship to hub only. To me, that's the safest way to ship a snake. I have never had a DOA. I think I've only shipped to home like probably less than 5 times out of all of the hundreds of shipments I've had. And I think the reasons I haven't had DOAs is because I've basically solely shipped to hub. Because those animals are moving overnight when there's not extreme heat. Because most of our shipping obviously is done over the summer, fall, late spring. So they're not moving when there's extreme heat outside. They're usually on a truck for a very limited amount of time, and then they're in the hub waiting for pickup that's temperature controlled. If they get put onto the back of a FedEx truck at 5 a.m., if you're shipping to home, there's times where those deliveries don't occur until the afternoon. And if I'm shipping East Coast to West Coast, and I'm shipping at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and those snakes could be in transit for over 24 hours if they're going West Coast, and those don't arrive until, you know, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon on West Coast time. And if those trucks get to be 95 degrees, 100 degrees, you're baking your snakes. So you need to know to ship anyways, and you need to follow those criteria, which is a big thing. But you also need to make sure that I would lean towards only shipping to hub with people. And if somebody requests, usually when I make a sale, usually when I'm advertising, I say I only ship to hub. When I make a sale, I say, please fill out, because when you make a sale on Morph Market, there's a little tab you can press that says request address. I tell the customer, please fill out this address request with your preferred FedEx hub for delivery, so there's no confusion. If they decide to fill out their home address, I'm upfront and I say, look, I do not offer a live arrival guarantee if we're shipping to home. It is not safe in my opinion. I have never offered a live arrival guarantee. If you do not want to pick it up at the hub, it is at your risk to get it delivered to home. It is not my responsibility if it sits on a truck and dies, because basically the way I say it to myself is, if you're too damn lazy to drive to a FedEx hub, whether it's 10 minutes away or an hour away, to pick up a snake to make sure it gets there safely, I don't give a shit. Sometimes I've even erred on the side of like, I'm not even going to ship it to you. It's a little safer in the warmer months than it is when it's super cold, but I still prefer not to do it. But the way I look at it is, yeah, if you're too lazy to go pick it up because it's a little too far for you, then maybe you shouldn't be buying snakes. But I'm surely not going to guarantee that the snake's healthy arrival if you choose to not go pick it up at the hub. What else? Listings. When you're listing your snakes, be as clear and concise as possible in your listings. Try to include, when you're listing an animal in Morph Market, you have the option to put all the genetics in there, date of birth, weight. I've never really put the pairing info because I've never put the actual adults into Morph Market. But I will list the pairing info in the listing. If it's something where I'm only taking a certain payment method, I list that in the description of the animal as well. I feel like I've found that when I'm posting pictures of these snakes, if I go into Canva, and if you go look at my old listings, you'll see that I have a little yellow border. I started at some point putting a yellow border around all of my pictures. It makes it pop and stand out versus the other 30,000 listings on Morph Market. Give me 1 second. This plane's really loud over the top of my head. So you want to be as clear and concise as possible with all information. Let me get a little closer so you can hear me. With all information you need to about the snake, so that the buyer can't come back and say that you didn't include something, that you excluded something on purpose. You don't want there to be any confusion during the transaction, after the transaction. List what type of food they're eating, because I have had issues where people, here's my viewpoint, and I'll stand by this forever, and some of you knuckleheads that have never sold a snake will argue this. If I give you, I'm the seller, give you the buyer all of the information, weight, date of birth, the prey item that it eats, the pairing information, and you buy the snake and you get the snake and you're unsatisfied with something that pertains to that stuff, yes, I do feed ASFs. I list whether those snakes eat ASFs or mice or rats. If you choose to be negligent about reading the information and reading the diet of that animal, that's your fault as the buyer. That's not my fault as the seller. All that information is readily available to you, or you could have emailed me and I could have pointed you back to the listing before you bought it. So as a seller, you need to make sure that you're safe from that sort of BS from the seller side or from the buyer side, because there are a lot of lazy buyers that just see a pretty snake and buy it regardless of what the prey is, or what the size is, or what the date of birth is, or what the genetics are, and then have buyer's remorse when something doesn't work out the way they want it to, and try to pin it back on you. They can't do that if, as a seller, you are clear, concise, and provide all of that information in the listing. That listing is like your backup plan, your security. If everything is clearly listed out there and somebody has a problem after buying, you can point them back to that and say, look, what's the problem? I told you everything there is to know. And it also goes back to the store policy. I even had to add things over the years of my store policy because people, they nitpick every damn thing. I have hatchlings go out where, the weight, let's just say it's 100 grams. I typically stop feeding snakes when I know they're going to be shipped out, because I really try to ship them out when they don't have any food in their bellies and they've already pooped it out. The snake was listed at 100 grams and it arrived at the buyers at 85 grams, which is 15 grams smaller than what I had it listed as. And I don't remember if the review was like a 3 out of 5 or what, or if they mentioned, I don't remember what it was, but they complained about it. And my response was, that's literally one meal. That animal, when I weighed it, it was 100 grams. I haven't fed it for a couple of weeks. It pooped. It's 85 grams now. That snake is still healthy. It just hasn't eaten because I try to ship them empty. So I even made a video about it, taking the meal, the size mouse that I fed it, putting it on the scale, and showing that a small mouse is roughly 15 grams. That's literally one meal. So I had to change my store policy stating that these animals, I take weights, they're accurate at the time of weighing. There may be some fluctuation because I try to ship them empty. So if they come in 10, 15 grams smaller, you can't complain about it, because that's how stuff works. So you might need to adjust your store policy as you have issues arise. And believe me, you will arise. Issues will arise because you will have bad buyers, bad customers. And so that's probably the next best topic is, it's okay to refuse a sale. And it's okay to say to yourself, this is a bad customer, I don't want him or her. Because there have been plenty of sales that I have actually refused. Actually, the guy that complained about that 15 grams came back and tried to lowball me on a snake, I don't know if he lowballed me. He tried to buy a snake over this past summer, and I didn't remember who he was. And he offered me whatever he offered me, and the name looked familiar. And I looked him up. And I could tell that he was difficult inquiring about the new one. I was like, oh man, this guy seems like he's going to be difficult. I looked back through my message. I was like, oh my God, that's that guy. That's that idiot. That's that dummy that was a pain in the ass 4 or 5 months ago. And I thought to myself, is he seriously trying to come back and buy something else off me after he just complained? And I think he followed up by saying, oh yeah, I edited my review from last time to take away the negative rating or whatever. And at that point, I was like, I almost dropped the F-bomb. I'm trying to keep this one so it doesn't get demonetized. You're a moron. Like, No, I will not sell you this snake. I would rather sell it to somebody else for less than sell it to you at full price, because I know you're a nightmare. I do not want to deal with you ever again. Please do not inquire ever again on one of my snakes. You need to be able to, when you see a red flag, I mentioned this in a couple of videos ago, when you see that red flag in dating, that means run away. Don't date that person. When you see a red flag with a customer, I am guaranteeing you now that even if you need that money, there's a good chance that it's not going to be worth it. And you're better off refusing the sale and going a different direction, because bad customers can ruin the whole experience for you. They can make your life a nightmare. My bad customers that I've had have used up and wasted more of my time than all of my good customers. I can almost guarantee you that the bad sales or customers that I've had that have wasted my time or even not even purchased have used up more of my time. Let's just say if I have 250 reviews on Morph Market, that's people that have bought from me. And let's just say 50 potential customers or customers that are bad. So 20% of the customers that did or didn't buy were bad customers. I would guarantee you they used up more of my time and energy and emotions than the 80% of the good customers, because they're I don't know if anybody here watched What We Do in the Shadows. It's a vampire comedy, and the one character is an energy vampire. Like, he wasn't actually like a blood-sucking vampire. He got off on literally draining the life force from people. That's what these people are. They're energy vampires. They like live to just make everybody else miserable. Everything they do makes you miserable. The interactions make you miserable. The sale process makes you miserable. The after sale process makes you miserable. You do not want to deal with it. It's not worth your time, especially if you're starting off and selling $200 snakes. Holy shit. Talking about lost time, lost wages. When you get a bad customer that's buying a $100 snake and you spend hours and hours having to go back and forth with them, you have lost an unimaginable amount of your resources. So don't do it. When you see red flags, walk away. Walk away. It's not worth it. Because eventually you're going to get a good customer out of it. I've had people waste hours of my life and not actually buy an animal. Just email back and forth and negotiate and argue and then you have somebody come spend 3 times as much money. Hey, I want to buy this. Here's your money. Ship it Tuesday. See ya. That's all you talk to them. The majority of my sales go to people like that. They're easy. They know what they want. They know what they're getting. As long as you're accurate with your description and your animal and the health, they know what they're getting. They have nothing to talk to you about after that. If they're buying a lightning pied off of me and I'm selling them a lightning pied and it's the advertised weight and the pictures are accurate and the date of birth is accurate and the gender is accurate, there's no further conversation that we need to have other than thanks, thank you, bye. Oh, hey, I want to buy another snake. That's it. There's no more back and forth that needs to be done. So you really need to make sure that when you are selling, you're sniffing out the bad from the good and try to just stick to the good. So I'm not going to go, because this goes more to husbandry, so I'm not going to go too deep into it in terms of what you should and shouldn't be doing with husbandry, but you do not want to overproduce. You do not want to have a store full of 500 animals that you can't sell, because guess what? Those animals, when you're at home and they're not selling, are costing you time and money. You got to pay to power those racks. You got to pay to either buy the prey or grow out the prey. You got to spend time raising the prey if you breed your own rodents. It takes a lot of time to feed 500 snakes. By the time those snakes sell, because I guarantee you, if you have 500 snakes in your store, they probably all suck genetically, or at least 90% of them. By the time you sell them, it's going to end up costing you a lot of money and a lot of time that you're never going to get back. And it's not worth it for the hobby. It's not worth it. So, but this is the bigger issue with that side of it. And that's when you're selling, when you have things to sell, you need to sell them. The issue with this hobby is that there's too many snakes. I don't care if that's nice snakes or bad or genetically crappy snakes. There's too many of them. People are making too many. They can't sell them because there's too many, but they also can't sell them because they don't know how to sell them. They're not trying to sell. This is not a thing where you're going to post 500 snakes and people are like, oh, give me those snakes. Snake Limited's making them. Canova's making them. So I'm just going to buy them all. That's not how this works. There's ebbs and flows in the snake market, just like there is in the stock market. There are great ups and there's really big downs too. And we just experienced a big down. At some point, hopefully it rebounds sooner than later for all you guys. But selling snakes is just like selling anything else. I don't want to compare it to an inanimate object, but it's not always as easy as just posting it and assuming you're getting a sale. If you have, go look back through my YouTube and Instagram. Now, I haven't been active on Instagram for quite some time, probably 6 months. And I always actually found more of my sales came from posting on YouTube than Instagram. But if you go look back historically, I had spent a lot of time posting Instagram, YouTube, to make sure that I was actively selling these things. And I would end every single season with 0 inventory in terms of things I was trying to sell. 2024, 0 inventory at the end of the year. 2023, 0 inventory at the end of the year. 2025, I have like almost negative inventory. I'm selling stuff before they're even out of the eggs. I have 1 clutch left to sell, and it's probably going to be sold. I haven't even advertised yet because they're not out of their eggs. It'll probably be sold before they're ready to go. I'll be done. 0 inventory. I didn't tell myself, hey, I'm going to end 2025 will be my last year, and I'm not carrying over tons of inventory into 2026 because I'm actively selling. I'm trying to move these animals. I didn't post back in April when I was saying, hey, I'm getting out, I'm done. Throw everything up on Morph Market and just hope to God they sold. I was out there every single day posting, making videos, or thinking internally on how I'm going to get these things sold. Do I sell them in packages? Do I just reduce the prices by a lot? Is there a creative way to make a video about it? How can I spend a little bit of time going into Canva and making a nice graphic showing these animals off? Morph Market. How do I change the headline on the listing to convey to people in Morph Market that this animal's on sale or available at a really good price? Do I need to put the animal on sale in Morph Market so it shows that red price, and how low should I drop it? Does buy one get one free better than half off? Does selling in pairs work than selling better in singles? There's a million different things you can try and that you should be trying to move the inventory. Because the way I've always looked at it is, if I put a snake up at $1,000 and it sits there, Nobody inquires on it. What does that mean? There's no buyers for it. It could mean that there's no buyers in general for that snake. Maybe it was a bad combo. Or it could mean, more than likely, that you just haven't priced it properly. So what do? I lower the price, or I put it on sale. I see if that catches any eyes, any inquiries. You know, on Morph Market, it'll actually tell you how many views and clicks a listing gets too. And you can see a big difference between your listings of, like, if you have if I have a lightning pied, it's going to have like a 5%, 10% click-through rate, meaning if there's 1,000 views, 100 people are clicking on it, 50 people are clicking on it. Whereas if I have a clown listed in there, especially if it's not at a competitive price, and there's 1,000 views, I might have 10 clicks on it, 5 clicks on it, because who gives a shit? It's a clown. That'll also tell you if the pricing is good. If you have a 5 or 10% click-through rate, that usually means you're getting pretty good traction. That means there are people interested in it. You just haven't found the right buyer yet. Maybe you shouldn't even lower the price at that point. Maybe you lower it. Maybe those people are waiting for you to drop it like an extra 10%. And that's all it takes to reel them in, to reel in the catch. So when you are selling, you need to be very active. When somebody comes in and sends you an offer, not a lowball offer, because people that lowball can kick rocks. I think they waste everybody's time, and they should really just reconsider everything they're doing in general. But when somebody sends, if you have a snake listed for 1,000, and they come in and offer you 6, maybe try to meet them in the middle and say, how about 8? Let's meet in the middle. That works more often than you think. And guess what? $800 in your pocket is better than $0 in your pocket. And especially if a snake's been on there a while, you don't know how long that snake's going to sit there. And at the end of the day, what's that $200 going to do? Yeah, it's a lot of money, but if you can't sell the snake, isn't $800 better than not having that $200? And a lot of people don't think like that. And that's how I am with a lot of these things. If somebody, when there's more every day now, the number is increasing in a morph market. It was around 30, now it's at 33, 34. When there's that many snakes, and you get a nibble, I'm using my fishing references here, and you get a nibble, you gotta try to reel in the fish. You don't just let it go off the line. You need to try to close the deal. So a legitimate nibble, not a tire kicker, not a low baller. So somebody who you can tell is a legitimate buyer that's putting in a legitimate offer. You try to reel that in. This isn't 2021 anymore. Snakes aren't flying off the shelves. People can wait. People are waiting to make those purchases. I mean, look, my Patreon has a bunch of people in it. I had a bunch of people that invested a lot of money in the lightning pied stuff, bought a lot of animals, and, bought them over the last 2-3 years when those snakes were a lot more expensive. When I decided to get out and decided to lower the prices and sell them pretty competitively, or I should say the most competitively, I actually offered them to those people first, because I thought, well, they've been good customers. Let me give them the first dibs. And they weren't in the market for them. These were, animals you can't really get anywhere else. Granted, they already had quite a few of them already, but they just weren't in the market. So you never know when people are entering or exiting the market on a specific project or in general. And when you get that nibble, when you get somebody interested, you try to reel them in. And that's what I did a couple weeks back. I was talking about a customer who, I think they bought 1 or 2 snakes on auction for like $100, $200. And they inquired about one of the clutches I had up for wholesale. And I was like, well, this is actually pretty smart. That's actually where I got the whole idea to wholesale over the last couple of clutches. I said, maybe I should do this. We talked, negotiated, came to a good price. I was like, great, thank you. And then I was like, wait a second, I have one more similar clutch. I'm gonna follow up with them and see if they want this one. Followed up with them, talked about it back and forth, another sale. So I made 3 to 4 separate sales. Luckily we shipped them all together, so I saved on shipping. To one customer, you upsell, upsell, upsell. Every time they bought more, they saved more. It's a win-win. It took inventory off my hands. I saved not having to ship. You know, that was 12 or 13 snakes. That would have been 12 or 13 different people I would have had to negotiate with. That would have been 12 or 13 different boxes I would have had to have shipped. I would have had to negotiate probably shipping in those deals. If it was 12 different shipments, there's a potential where I would have lost $50 just on shipping on each one of those. If I had to give free shipping, that's $500. So if I can make one sale where somebody takes all of them and I have to give them a $500 discount, 25, 30, 40% off, or whatever it was, that's a win-win. It works out for everybody. So you need to think about different ways to make these sales because they aren't going to make themselves. If you're doing this as a business or even a side business, you need to treat it like a business. And that's where most of you fail. You're not treating it like a business. You need to do social media. You need to be professional. You need to think about your expenses. You need to think about your profits, potential profits, forecasting. It is a business, just as if you're running a convenience store or you're an electrician, whatever it is, you're running a business. So treat it like one. The issue, when you see Instagram, people posting on YouTube, and you see all these snakes on Morph Market that aren't selling, do you know why? That's because these people shouldn't be trying to run businesses. It's not for everybody. It's a hard thing to do. You have to have that entrepreneurial mind to make something like this succeed. I mean, I'll be the first to admit, I sort of got burnt out by doing this, but at the same time, for my personal life, I was doing stock trading, I was breeding snakes, I'm doing IT work, I have a family life that's pretty busy, we have 2 kids, my wife works, busy all the time. We just have too much stuff to do. So I got burnt out doing everything. It wasn't just snakes, it was just being pulled in 1,000 different directions. I'm sure a lot of you guys are doing similar things, but if I wanted to continue to do this, I am profitable at this point. I would probably continue to make 6 figures a year doing this the way I've been doing it, because I have that entrepreneurial spirit. Like, I want to run a business. I want to work for myself. I am business minded. I understand money. I understand cash flow. I understand expenses. I understand how to cut down on costs. I understand the breeding, the project building, breeding project building, on how to get the most bang for my buck. And judging by how many people I've seen come and go, I would say 99% of you don't get it and shouldn't be doing it. So if you don't think you have that capacity, I'm telling you right now, you shouldn't be a breeder and spend a lot of money in it. If you want to be a hobbyist and buy a handful of snakes and breed one pairing just to try it, you know, that's great. But guess what? You still got to sell the snakes. So I would absolutely am against people going out and buying 2 of the cheapest snakes possible and trying to breed them. I use this example every video. Please do not go out and buy a Mojave and an Enchi and breed for a bunch of Mojaves and Enchis and possibly even normals. We don't need more of those. That's what's ruining this hobby, is people are just breeding these super genetically poor snakes that nobody wants. And that's why there's so many of them. Go look at Morph Market. You go sort by price, say 500 bucks and under, and see how many of those snakes on Morph Market are 500 bucks and under. It's the vast majority of Morph Market. And those snakes are not going to sell. Those snakes are aging listings, year old, 2 years old, that have little to no play because nobody wants them and because the prices probably suck. And when I see a store that has 500 plus ball pythons in it, I mean, I don't care if it's Canova or anybody, Mike Wilbanks, whoever, especially a lower end breeder, I know there's no chance of them selling through all those snakes. Obviously Canova will at some point. And a lot of those bigger guys, they do farm breed. I know Mike Wilbanks, I'm sure a lot of you know, nice guy, I talked to him a couple times, but they produce a lot of lower end stuff, or had been. And Garrick DeMeyer did, I think he's even admitted so. And they stopped, some of them stopped doing it, and some of them will continue to do it, but they overproduce and then they end up having to wholesale them out. And these smaller guys, which I'm talking to you guys because Canova is not coming here looking for advice. You guys that are where I'm at or below, most of you I would assume are below, you're not going to be able to produce 500 snakes a year and sell them. And there are multiple stores in Morph Market that have 500 snakes and above that genetically those animals suck, that will never sell or aren't selling. 2-year-old listings. You can't do it. That's not a business. That's just you overproducing animals and hoarding them. And to be honest, that's not good for the animals. I guarantee you that things aren't getting top care. Nobody can take care of hundreds, 500,000 animals by themselves. Not possible. There's not enough time in the day. Think about that. Even if you spent 1 minute with each of those animals, you wouldn't have enough waking hours to care for them each day. That's assuming you're only spending a minute. What happens when they poop? What happens when you need to clean out a whole tub? What happens when you need to redo waters? What happens when you need to feed them all? Feeding was some of my most time-consuming things, because you have to go through, pick out the right size rodents, plop them all in the tubs, and then continuously check back to see if those snakes are eating them or not. So you don't want to overproduce, and the people that have overproduced are a perfect example as to why you shouldn't. Go look at their stores. They got tons of animals. Go look at the age of the listings. Those listings are 1 year, 2 years, maybe some of them are even 3 years old. That sucks. From a standpoint, from a breeder standpoint, if you have two-year-old listings, you literally suck at doing this. You should not be in this industry. That's like garbage, straight ass garbage in terms of your abilities to produce and sell. Just simple as that. I don't know how else to kind of present that to you. So again, my goal every year was to end the season at the end of the calendar year before Christmas, before shipping was done, with zero inventory. The only things I wanted in my racks were things I was keeping or breeding. That should be your goal every year. So, sellers, hopefully this video gave you enough information. I don't know if I missed anything. It was kind of a lot. This is a 45-minute long video at this point, so I'm going to wrap it up so I can take a breather from the middle of my walk. So to buyers and sellers, I might do one of these longer videos about project management, what projects to get into. Just all about projects, because there seems to be a lot of confusion. I know I talk every video about not making snakes that are genetic garbage. So maybe I should put some more information into what I mean by that. But yeah, hopefully these videos are helpful to you. Please comment down below if you've watched this whole entire video. I'm very curious to see how many people stuck around to listen to me talk for 45 minutes, and if all 45 minutes of the video were educational and useful. Hopefully it was. That's the whole point. Again, these last few videos are just me kind of going off, talking about the things that I feel are most important for people to understand. You know, going off educationally, trying to set all the new people up for a little bit of success. So hopefully that's what I'm doing. And if there are any other longer form videos you want me to talk about, please comment below as well. Again, I guess I'll know by who's sticking around 45 minutes, who's posting video ideas. But yeah, thank you guys if you did, and we'll see you next time.